I never thought my wedding day would end with me standing alone in a parking lot, mascara streaming down my face, and my $4,000 dress splattered with red wine. But that's what happens when your own sister decides your special day is the perfect time to settle old scores. I'm Madeline, and 6 months ago, I was just another bride in Savannah, Georgia, planning what I thought would be the perfect Southern wedding, complete with magnolia centerpieces, shrimp and grits stations, and a historic plantation venue my fiancé Tyler and I had saved for 2 years to afford. What I didn't account for was Jessica, my maid of honor, my only sister, and apparently the person who'd been resenting me since we were kids. The woman who'd been hiding something that would turn my carefully planned wedding into what my mother now refers to as the incident. If you've ever had a family member sabotage something important to you, hit that like button and subscribe to hear stories about family drama that'll make yours seem normal in comparison. Because trust me, what happened at my wedding reception isn't just another bridezilla story. It's about the moment I finally understood that sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family that deserves you. Growing up in Savannah meant big family gatherings, church on Sundays, and keeping up appearances no matter what. My parents were fixtures in the local community. Dad ran his family's insurance business, and Mom chaired every charity committee she could find. We lived in one of those historic homes with a wraparound porch where Mom would serve sweet tea to visitors while whispering gossip once they left. Jessica was 3 years older, and as far back as I can remember, she was the golden child. Homecoming queen, valedictorian, and eventually the successful marketing executive who moved to Atlanta but never missed an opportunity to remind everyone where she came from. I was always Jessica's little sister, the quieter one, the one who stayed local and became a kindergarten teacher. When we were teenagers, Jessica made sure I knew my place. At my 16th birthday party, she brought her college boyfriend home, the one everyone fawned over because he played football for Georgia. Right as I was about to blow out my candles, Jessica announced they'd gotten engaged. My sweet 16 turned into their impromptu engagement party within minutes. Mom was ecstatic, already planning a wedding, while I sat in the corner with a piece of cake nobody else wanted. The engagement fell apart 3 weeks later, but the damage was done. That became a pattern in our relationship. Jessica struggled with the idea of me having my own spotlight. When I met Tyler at a friend's barbecue 4 years ago, I was cautious about introducing him to my family. He wasn't from the South. He'd moved from Michigan for work and didn't understand our particular brand of family politics. But he was kind, stable, and looked at me like I was the center of his universe. When he proposed on a boat tour around Tybee Island, I said yes immediately. But my second thought was, what will Jessica think? The answer came quickly. Jessica insisted on throwing my engagement party. A gesture that surprised me, but seemed like a peace offering. The party was beautiful, at her friend's country club, with monogrammed napkins and a signature cocktail called Maddie's Match. But halfway through the evening, after a few too many drinks, Jessica clinked her glass for a toast. "To my baby sister," she said, "who's finally found someone to settle down with. Tyler, you should know Maddie has always wanted what other people have. When I got my first car, she begged Dad for one too. When I went to UJ, suddenly she needed to apply there." So, I'm not surprised she found her own Michigan man after meeting mine at Christmas last year. The room went silent. I hadn't known Jessica had dated someone from Michigan. Tyler squeezed my hand under the table. I learned later from my cousin that Jessica had gone on 2 dates with a guy from Detroit before he ghosted her. Despite this history, when it came time to plan my wedding, I still asked Jessica to be my maid of honor. Mom insisted it was the right thing to do, and part of me hoped planning this wedding together might heal something between us. For a while, it seemed to work. Jessica helped me find my venue, suggested vendors, and even organized a surprisingly tasteful bachelorette weekend in Charleston. What I didn't know was that she was harboring a secret that would change everything. A secret involving Tyler from before I even met him. A secret she was waiting for the perfect moment to reveal. The wedding days started peacefully enough. May in Savannah is beautiful, but unpredictable. We'd been worried about rain, but instead got one of those perfect blue sky days that seem almost suspiciously gorgeous. The historic Forsyth plantation was transformed with white garden chairs, arches of magnolias and roses, and strings of lights that would twinkle once the sun set. I spent the morning getting ready with my bridesmaids in the plantation's carriage house. Jessica seemed oddly quiet, but I attributed it to the 3 mimosas she'd already finished before noon. She'd been texting constantly, keeping her phone angled away from everyone else. "Everything okay?" I asked as my makeup artist was finishing my look. "Just perfect," Jessica said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just confirming a surprise for later." Mom bustled around, making sure everything was perfect, occasionally dabbing tears from her eyes and saying how she couldn't believe her baby was getting married. Dad kept popping in with updates. The florist needed confirmation on something, the photographer wanted to know where to set up, Tyler's family had all arrived from Michigan. The ceremony went off without a hitch. I walked down the aisle to an acoustic version of our song, "Come Away With Me." Tyler's eyes welled up when he saw me, and for those moments, everything was perfect. We exchanged vows we'd written ourselves, and when the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the crowd erupted in cheers. I felt invincible, loved, and for once, like the center of attention for all the right reasons. The trouble started during the cocktail hour. Jessica disappeared for nearly 40 minutes. When she returned, she seemed different, more animated, almost vibrating with energy. She kept glancing toward the entrance of the reception tent, as if waiting for someone. "Is there someone else coming?" I asked her as we lined up for our entrance into the reception. "You could say that," she said, straightening my veil unnecessarily roughly. "Just making sure this day is as memorable as you deserve." The reception began beautifully. Tyler and I had our first dance under twinkling lights to Ray LaMontagne's "You Are the Best Thing." We cut the 4-tier cake with buttercream frosting and fresh flowers. Dad gave a tearful speech about how proud he was, and Tyler's best man had everyone laughing with stories from their college days. Then it was Jessica's turn to toast. She approached the microphone with her champagne glass, that same strange smile on her face. The DJ lowered the music. "For those who don't know me, I'm Jessica, Maddie's big sister and maid of honor," she began. Her voice was steady, but I could see a slight tremor in her hand. "I've known Maddie her whole life, watched her grow up, always a few steps behind me, always looking up to her big sister." A few chuckles from the crowd. My stomach tightened. When she told me about Tyler, I was so excited for her. Truly. Even though I've always had to look out for my little sister, make sure she doesn't get hurt. Jessica paused, scanning the room. "Which is why what I'm about to do is actually an act of love." The tent grew quiet. I felt Tyler's hand tighten around mine. "Before I finish my toast, there's someone who wanted to be here today. Someone I think deserves to witness this union." Jessica gestured toward the entrance of the tent. "Amber, would you join us?" A woman in a red dress walked in. She couldn't have been more than 25, with long blonde hair and a hesitant expression. I'd never seen her before in my life. The crowd murmured in confusion. "Amber worked with Tyler in Atlanta 3 years ago," Jessica continued, "before he moved to Savannah and met my sister. They had what Tyler apparently described to her as the real thing." Jessica made air quotes with her fingers. "Amber reached out to me on Instagram last month after seeing my posts about planning my sister's wedding. She recognized Tyler and thought I should know some things. Tyler had gone completely still beside me. His face had drained of color. I turned to him, silently pleading for him to tell me this was some kind of mistake. "Tyler," I whispered, "who is she?" The microphone picked up my question, broadcasting it across the silent tent. 200 pairs of eyes swiveled between Tyler, this stranger named Amber, and me. Jessica wasn't finished. Amber has some interesting text messages from Tyler, messages from just 2 weeks ago. She took her phone out of her clutch. "Would you like me to read them? Or would you prefer to explain to your new wife who Amber is and why you've been texting her that you made a mistake and still think about what could have been?" The silence in that tent was deafening. I could hear my own heartbeat, the clinking of ice in glasses, even the distant sound of catering staff outside. Tyler's face had gone from pale to crimson, and his grip on my hand had loosened to nothing. "This is not," Tyler started, then stopped, looking helplessly between me and this woman, Amber, who stood awkwardly at the edge of the dance floor. "Tell her," Jessica prompted, still holding the microphone like it was a weapon. "Tell my sister about your secret Atlanta weekends. Tell her about the apartment you kept on paying for even after you moved to Savannah." I stood up, my legs shaking beneath my gown. "Is this true?" I asked Tyler, not caring that everyone could hear me. My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, higher, strained. "Maddie, it's complicated," Tyler said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "Amber and I dated before I met you. It ended. Yes, we've talked occasionally, but 2 weeks ago?" I whispered. Jessica jumped in. "Show her the texts, Amber. I think my sister deserves to know exactly what kind of man she just married." Amber looked like she wanted to disappear. "I didn't know he was getting married," she said softly. "He told me he was attending a friend's wedding in Savannah. When I saw your sister's posts..." My mother stood up at the family table. "Jessica, that's enough. This is neither the time nor the place." "When is the time, Mom?" Jessica shot back. "After they buy a house together? After they have kids? Should I have waited until Maddie was truly trapped?" I looked at Jessica, really looked at her. Behind the righteous indignation, I saw something else. Satisfaction. This wasn't about protecting me. This was about ruining my moment, my day, my happiness. Something snapped inside me. 28 years of being the good sister, the understanding one, the one who forgave and forgot and made peace for the family's sake. I turned away from Tyler and walked straight to Jessica. I grabbed the microphone from her hand. "You know what, Jess? I actually believe you think you're helping me right now. That's the saddest part." My voice was surprisingly steady. "But this isn't about Tyler or Amber or protecting me. This has always been about you not being able to stand seeing me happy." Jessica's smug expression faltered. "Maddie, I'm just trying to..." "No," I cut her off. "You've been trying to overshadow me my entire life. My 16th birthday, my college graduation when you announced your promotion during my party, and now my wedding." I turned to face our guests, these people who had come to celebrate with us, now witnesses to this disaster. I apologized to everyone for this spectacle. Obviously, I have some things to discuss with my husband. I emphasized the last word, looking directly at Jessica. But I want to make something clear. My sister didn't orchestrate this scene out of love for me. She did it because 5 months ago, she learned that our father is planning to retire and hand over the family business to me instead of her. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dad stood up, shock evident on his face. He'd wanted to surprise me with the announcement during his reception speech. "How did you?" he started. "She went through your office, Dad, found the paperwork. She's been furious ever since. I turned back to Jessica. That's your real problem. Not Tyler, not protecting me. The fact that for once in our lives, Dad chose me over you. Jessica's face contorted with rage and embarrassment. She grabbed her wine glass and threw the contents at me, dark red Cabernet splashing across my white dress like a Rorschach test. "You don't deserve the business," she shouted. "You don't deserve any of this." I stood there, wine dripping down my dress, and felt strangely calm. "Thank you, Jessica, for making my decision very easy." I handed the microphone to the stunned DJ, picked up my wine-stained skirts, and walked straight out of the tent. As I left, I heard my mother calling after me, and my father's voice, lower but clear. "Jessica, I think you should leave. Now." I spent the next hour sitting on a stone bench in the plantation's garden, watching the sunset and listening to the muffled sounds of my wedding reception continuing without me. My makeup artist had helped me clean up most of the wine stain, though the dress was probably ruined. I didn't cry. I felt numb, processing everything that had just happened. Tyler found me there. He sat beside me, leaving a careful distance between us. "I need to explain," he said quietly. "Yes, you do." I kept my eyes on the horizon. He told me the whole story. How he and Amber had dated for nearly a year in Atlanta before he took the job in Savannah. How they'd broken up because neither wanted long distance. How he'd kept paying for their shared apartment for 2 months while she found a new place, not because they were still together, but because it was the decent thing to do. Yes, they'd stayed in touch occasionally. And yes, 2 weeks ago, in a moment of pre-wedding panic, he'd texted her. "I got scared, Maddie. Not because I don't love you, I do, more than anything. But marriage, it's big. I had a moment of wondering about roads not taken. It was stupid and selfish." "Did you sleep with her during our relationship?" I asked. "Never," Tyler said firmly. "Not once. You can read all the texts. I never even saw her in person after we broke up." I believed him. Perhaps I was naive, but I did. The texts were inappropriate, a betrayal of trust, but not the ongoing affair Jessica had implied. "Why didn't you tell me about her?" Tyler sighed. "She wasn't significant enough to mention. We dated. It ended amicably." "I've told you about other relationships, but Jessica, she took fragments of truth and constructed this narrative." "How did Jessica even find Amber?" I asked. "That's what I've been trying to figure out," Tyler said. "Amber told me Jessica reached out to her weeks ago, said she was doing a surprise video for our wedding, and wanted to include messages from people from my past. She asked very specific questions, led Amber to believe I'd talked about her constantly. She manipulated both of us." As we talked, my cousin Rachel appeared with 2 plates of food and a bottle of champagne. "Thought you might be hungry," she said, sitting beside us. "Also, you should know your dad just told Jessica she's no longer welcome at any family functions until she makes this right. Your mom is crying, but she's angry crying, not sad crying." "What about Amber?" I asked. "Left right after you did. She looked mortified." Rachel popped the champagne. "Also, I checked her Instagram. She got engaged last month. To a woman. So whatever happened between her and Tyler is ancient history." I nearly choked on my champagne. She's engaged to a woman? Yup, Jessica conveniently left that part out. I turned to Tyler. "Did you know?" He shook his head. "We haven't actually spoken in over 2 years. Just occasional texts. Very occasional." Rachel pulled out her phone and showed me Amber's profile. There she was, the same blonde woman, beaming beside a dark-haired woman, both holding up their left hands to display matching rings. The caption read, "She asked, I said yes. Can't believe I get to marry my best friend." The post was dated 3 weeks earlier, before Tyler's moment of pre-wedding jitters, before Jessica's scheme. The final piece of Jessica's manipulation became clear. She deliberately misrepresented everything. As the night progressed, more family members and friends found us in the garden. Tyler's parents brought cake. My college roommate brought more champagne. Dad came out and sat with us for a while, explaining that he'd been planning to announce my taking over the family business as a wedding gift. Jessica found the paperwork in March, he said. She confronted me, said I was betraying her. I told her the truth, that she's never shown interest in the business, that she has her career in Atlanta, and that you've been working alongside me for years, learning everything. She didn't speak to me for weeks afterward. Around midnight, we moved the party to the small pavilion by the plantation's pond. Someone found a speaker, and music played softly as 20 or so of our closest friends and family created an intimate reception that felt more us than the elaborate one we'd planned. Tyler and I danced under the stars, my wine-stained dress now a badge of survival rather than humiliation. "I'm sorry," he whispered against my hair, "for the texts, for the doubt, for everything." "We'll need to work on trust," I told him, "but I'm not throwing away our marriage because of Jessica's vendetta and your cold feet." 2 days later, I received a text from Jessica. "I hope you're happy. Mom and Dad have basically disowned me." I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on damage control, on healing, on figuring out what our life would look like moving forward. Tyler and I postponed our honeymoon to Maui and instead spent a week at a cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains, talking through everything: his fears, my insecurities, how we would build trust again. A month after the wedding, an unexpected package arrived at our apartment. Inside was a handwritten letter from Amber, apologizing for her role in the disaster. "I had no idea what your sister was planning," she wrote. "She told me you knew about my history with Tyler and wanted me there as a surprise for him." When I realized what was happening, I was horrified. I wish I had just walked out. Also in the package was a wedding gift, a beautiful handmade quilt, and an invitation to her upcoming wedding to her fiancé, Catherine. 6 months have passed. Dad and I now run the insurance business together, with me taking on more responsibilities each month. Tyler and I are in couples therapy, working through the trust issues that Jessica's revelation created. We're stronger for it, in many ways. As for Jessica, she's still in Atlanta, still not speaking to most of the family. Mom tries to mediate sometimes, but the wound is deep. Last week, though, Jessica sent me an email. Not an apology, exactly, but an acknowledgement. "I've started therapy," she wrote. "I'm trying to understand why I did what I did. It's a start. Maybe someday we'll find our way back to being sisters. For now, I'm focused on the family I've chosen. Tyler, our friends, the relatives who showed up for us in that garden when everything fell apart. Sometimes I think about that night in the garden, how what started as the worst moment of my life transformed into something unexpectedly beautiful. My perfect wedding wasn't perfect at all, but it was real. It stripped away pretense and showed me who truly had my back when everything fell apart. Jessica's attempt to humiliate me publicly taught me something valuable. I'm stronger than I ever knew. Strong enough to face ugly truths, to forgive imperfection in the people I love, and to set boundaries with those who hurt me repeatedly. The wine stain never came out of my dress, but I kept it anyway, a reminder that even our most carefully planned moments can shatter, and we can still find joy in the pieces. If you're dealing with toxic family dynamics or betrayal, remember that healing isn't linear. Some days I still feel angry. Other days I miss my sister desperately. But every day I choose to build the life and the family I deserve. Like and subscribe for more stories about family drama, healing, and finding your way forward when life doesn't go according to plan. And drop a comment below if you've ever had a family event go spectacularly wrong. Sometimes sharing our stories is the first step toward healing.